Welcome back to the home front. I'm your host, Galen. Today, I'm joined by Tina Nguyen. Tina is a senior reporter for The Verge, covering the second Trump administration, political influencers, tech lobbying, and big tech versus big government. Before joining The Verge, Tina was a founding partner at Puck, where she covered the evolution of the MAGA political ecosystem, a White House reporter for Politico, covering the first Trump administration, and a staff writer at Vanity Fair, covering politics and media. She is the author of The MAGA Diaries, Life Among the Fanatics, Extremists, and True Believers That Created the Modern Right. That was published last year, and she is based in Washington, D.C. Tina, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Reed. I've missed you. I've missed this. I haven't missed the scenario that we're in, but you know.
So you came on the show probably when your book first came out, because you have a different origin story from a lot of reporters, first in Washington, D.C., but also that cover the Trump administration and the Republican Party as it currently exists, in which you sort of started on that side of the world politically.
Yeah, the book kind of goes more into it, but it was more like I accidentally stumbled on it because I loved America too much and I loved the Founding Fathers too much. And this was 2008, 2009. So I was like, okay, cool. This is nice. It's all Schoolhouse Rock in here. Turns out when you grow into an adult, if a bunch of people give you money in college to study the founding and then introduce you to, I don't know, Steve Bannon and Ted Cruz's wife, and then starts giving you internships that are in liberty-loving organizations. Right. Maybe there's something up with that. And I found that out kind of the hard way in 2011, but that's sort of where the book comes from. It involves Tucker Carlson goss. It involves so much people goss. If listeners want to figure out what the hell's happening, but in a kind of funnier manner, just pick up the book.
Right, and I think it's important. It's a great book. It's a great read. But I think the other important part for me is a good reminder, Tina, that this started MAGA, whatever it became MAGA, started long before Donald Trump ever approached an escalator. That these folks, the people that you're talking about, like, they didn't just one day decide to start giving grants or scholarships to people. This has been going on for decades.
Yeah, the best way that I can give people a sense of the timeline is that I ask them, do they know how old Mitch McConnell is? And do you know how, he is frickin' old, mid-80s now?
Right.
He was one of the founding members of the Leadership Institute back in the early 60s that was doing all of this young leadership training stuff. He's been around for his entire lifespan. That's how long this has been around.
Well, and just, you mentioned the Leadership Institute, because if you go to their website, which I'm not recommending, but if you go to their website, Tina, I mean, this is the other part, is that there are no shortage of videos and other programs that individual Americans or individuals generally can go and learn how to write a press release, how to do a podcast, how to make an argument about economics or anything. I mean, it is a very well-funded, very well-organized ecosystem.
And that's just one of them.
Right. And that's just one of them. So, all right. So let's talk about it. So now here we are 7 months-ish into Trump 3.0. I don't even know what model number we're on now, what version number we're on now. But you have shifted your reporting straight from just Trump and MAGA to also the tech community. So give us a sense of what's going on at The Verge and what you're looking at right now.
So let's step back maybe until November, December. I had this kind of growing realization throughout my entirety of reporting on the Trump administration that the reason that we accelerated from the right being this kind of fringe group trying to break into mainstream politics to where we are now is because the Trump campaign leveraged technology and technological communications and everything in that sphere to grow their power, maintain their power, and then accelerate it into a return to power. I've been trying to fully report out that story for the entire time, but I kept running into a mindset in normal political media that was like, the internet's not real. There's no way that all of these things that you're covering could ever possibly happen. Go, like, figure out what's happening in that smoke-filled back room where real people are shaking hands. And I'm like, no, you really have to understand this part. So I was looking at the next 4 years or whatever and thinking, all right, do I want to try fighting this over and over and over again, or do I want to go to a place that will intuitively understand this? And so I started talking to The Verge, and this, with Neil Patel, this was the first time in my entire career where I could say something that I was following. And not only did he respond with, oh, I know what you're talking about, he also responded with, have you considered what happens when you take it a step further? Do you know how it could be possibly worse? Because I've thought about that. And I go, oh my God, I feel seen.
Yeah.
I am going to, I immediately was like, yes, I'm in. I want to be on the cutting edge of this. I want to be working with people who immediately clock what I'm trying to convey with these massively changing cultural dynamics. And yeah, The Verge was not really into politics, but they were charting the tech billionaires. They were charting the cultural changes that sprung up from the internet, all the way from Gamergate. There were people who've been there since Gamergate, which is the first time that the right wing really leveraged the power of the online community, gamers specifically, to delegitimize mainstream journalists. And Steve Bannon literally took a lot of his inspiration from that, transferred it to Breitbart. Here we are. So yeah, it's been kind of great. I don't know. And just the fact that I get to report on other things like crypto, AI, which are two fields being infiltrated by the tech right and the far right, is I'd rather be with people who already know how that works instead of what is a crypto?
Right. Well, it's interesting you say that because probably, in 2013, 2014, I worked with an organization it was in the aftermath of the Mitt Romney campaign and this idea that Republicans were way behind on technology, just from a campaign perspective. And so we would host these conferences, in San Francisco, in Washington, D.C., but in San Francisco, probably in 2013, Tina, was the first time I came across the crypto people, the Bitcoin people, and I didn't get it. Now, I'm not saying I get it now, but I didn't get it then. But then it was really almost as much ideological as it was financial, right? The technology was going to allow for this freedom to get away from centralized banks and all that. And now it seems like I wouldn't even call it an asset. It seems to be a speculative item that has dumped tens of millions of dollars into the American political process. Republicans have taken hold of, I think, again, both ideologically and financially. Young men seem to be into. And Democrats have gone along with it in this latest piece of legislation that went through, or these pieces of legislation that went through earlier this summer. So give us a sense of how crypto became sort of the handmaiden, or maybe MAGA is the handmaiden of crypto. I don't know. You tell us.
What you have to understand is when you started when you started talking about what you were doing in 2013 and studying this economy and trying to understand the innovations in technology, the Republicans may lose initially, but they are so good at studying their mistakes and rejiggering and coming back in and winning. I believe that the Democrats kind of took their superiority in that field for granted. I don't think that they evolved with the times, and I certainly don't believe that they took people who went into the crypto field as seriously as they did. I was at the Bitcoin conference reporting out this bizarre MAGA presence that had come through with the White House and all these Republican lawmakers attending. And one of the things that the policy teams at the crypto companies were saying out loud, which was the Democrats were trying to regulate us like crazy. They would have actually destroyed our industry. The Trump administration offered to save us. And once they did come in, they kept their promise on that regard. They decriminalized a lot of crypto fraud, a lot of crypto actions. They actually got rid, I think, of the DOJ division that was prosecuting cryptocurrency-related crimes. And they believed that they had been criminalized so much that they were virtually going to go bankrupt. And I think Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss said that as much. And
from the social network fame.
Yes, from the social network. They were getting into crypto back in like 2012, 2013. And they have many billions of dollars, maybe not Zuck billions, but enough, more billions than you and I will ever have. So they also did express like they would have a very strong loyalty to the Trump administration for basically not killing them. Which frankly, they did look at both sides and see one side was trying to put them all in jail and also selling off all the Bitcoin. The other side was like, no, we understand that Bitcoin does probably have the most inherent value. Sure, we'll let you keep more of it. Could you just give us some crypto? That'd be nice.
But I mean, so I interviewed Michael Lewis for his book. I don't know, maybe it's going on a couple of years ago now, about Sam Bankman-Fried and a couple of other people. And just give us a sense of why it is and what it's supposed to do. Because my contention, Tina, is that it's all still denominated in the dollar. So yes, it can go up and down in value, but with the exception of, I assume, a few places in San Francisco or LA or New York, like I couldn't buy a pizza with
it. You could literally take out Bitcoin in random ATMs in the middle of nowhere, Texas. Like that is like, you can actually use Bitcoin for these types of purposes. You would have to maybe withdraw it as cash from the ATM.
Right.
But if you go to someone who probably has a Bitcoin app installed, like some sort of a cryptocurrency app installed on their phone, peer-to-peer transaction, there you go. It's kind of surprising. Okay, let me step back a bit. First form of cryptocurrency, probably the most stable form of cryptocurrency, is Bitcoin. It came out in like maybe the late 20s, like 2000s, early 20s. If there are any crypto enthusiasts in your audience, I'm sorry if I donk it up a little here, the details. But the thing that makes Bitcoin the most secure of all the coins is that it's a code that just keeps iterating on itself the more that people pour server energy into the mining of crypto. Very energy intensive. Probably bad for the environment. I know an entire spa in New York City that is heated using crypto servers, but yeah, it's real. It's called Bathhouse. It's in Midtown.
Oh my.
No, Flatiron. But because the code is decentralized and controlled by literally everyone who owns Bitcoin, it's hard to manipulate that price. And the code itself is super valuable, and there is like an argument to be made, if you're a certain type of economist, that if you own a specific portion of that coin and assign a monetary value to it, that value is worthwhile. That's a harder sell to make with any other crypto you see arriving afterwards. If someone comes up with a coin, throws it on a marketplace, they're like, I created this coin. People could invest in the coin, but it's still kind of clear that there's some entity at the very top who has more control over how the coin works. Yeah, like they can.
Well, there was
like,
that she had a brief, fleeting, and potentially, I don't want to say that, but the Haktua coin, right? Like, which is, she said, I'm going to do a crypto coin. This is a girl who like came to prominence for, I'll say, dubious reasons on social media, decides to sell a crypto coin, and then the whole thing like crashes, right? And whoever had set the whole thing up runs off with the money, and anybody who had this coin is left holding the bag, or literally left holding nothing, because I guess you can't actually touch one. But also, I mean, Trump actually is using crypto as a pretty significant revenue generator for himself.
Yeah, there are two ways in which he's doing it. One is through Trump the meme coin, which was set up by him and a couple of other people in the crypto community to launch right before he became president again. I actually interviewed a guy for a story who shorted Trump coin, who shorted the Trump token in order to win that contest that Trump had run, that would give people an opportunity to have dinner with the president if they held the coin for X number of time and were in the top 200 holders of said coin. And they pulled a big short on it, as in he bought the token in the one marketplace, ran to another exchange, bought an almost equal amount of futures that bet the price of the Trump token would fall.
Right.
So he ended up being just like balanced the entire time, lost absolutely no money, got a fun dinner out of it. And almost everyone who went to that dinner sort of told him in secret, like, yeah, I actually pulled the same strategy here.
Right.
Like, they just kind of wanted to win. But what he told me afterwards was that the strategy that Trump did with that coin was not necessarily a one-to-one transaction. Like, people buy the... I'm sorry, it's token. It's a token. People get mad at me if I call it a coin.
We won't get mad at you here.
Yeah.
Call it whatever you want.
Thank you. So what the token is doing by people entering this contest, it's not a people buy the token, turns into money, goes into Trump's bank account. That's very traditional. That's
old-fashioned.
Like basic. It's old-fashioned. What happens is that the more they buy into the token, the more that the value of the token raises, which means that the locked up value of the token that is being held by the creators, but the investors who launched the token to begin with, theirs rises as well.
Right.
And they can't start selling off until a specific period, but the more that the value of the token is inflated in the general marketplace, the more that more money they get to make when they dump it. That's what the rug pull's called.
Right, because if your cost basis is $1 and other people are buying it, even if you're not doing anything, and now your value is $1.50, well then you're 50% up, even though your cost basis is $1. All right.
Right. And one more thing about that. Sorry. So the reason that the contest was created was not to just give people opportunities to go to the president, but they wanted to assign an actual value to buying a lot of the token. Like, if you buy a lot of the token and you hold a lot of the token and you make our token price go up, you could win a dinner with the president. You could win these sneakers or an NFT or whatever. Other meme coins don't have like actual things you can get from holding it.
Right.
This is their attempt to like artificially keep the price up.
Sure. And NFTs, non-fungible tokens, just so COVID, right? So COVID era, basically buying these things that made no sense when I guess people they had lots of money, but nothing else to do with it. All right. Now that I'm sufficiently confused, let's take a swing back into tech and MAGA. So for a long time, Republicans, at least publicly, when they spoke, were really anti-tech. Tina, that they thought that Meta and Twitter, they were all in it to hurt Republicans. There was a liberal bias, but now they seem to be pretty significantly in bed together. So what was there ever really the liberal bias amongst social media outlets? Was big tech ever really out to get Republicans? If so, what changed, and where is that relationship now?
This is a slightly hotter, spicier take than most people would give, but I think just like after being at a tech publication for this long, I would comfortably say the major tech corporations were pretty liberal. They were voting Dem. They probably had a couple of like totally out there people. Peter Thiel, most certainly conservative from the day he stepped foot on Stanford's campus, but they were 100% just giving money to Democrats all the time. What changed, though, was in the 2020 election, you started seeing a bit more of a crackdown from the Democratic Party onto certain like tech billionaires like Mark Andreessen, Elon Musk as well. And on the flip side, Trump is courting these billionaires going like, I'll protect your businesses, whatever. Right. Whoever is like opposing Trump at the like up to the point where he wins the presidency, let's say like Bezos or whatever, all of a sudden they realize, oh my God, this man is going to like regulate the hell out of us.
Right, I got to get right.
How are we going to get? Yeah, I got to get right. How am I going to get my like how am I going to get my like microchips into the country? How am I going to be able to sell my products in the EU? What happens if I can't like have a web server in this country? So that's when you start seeing them all flock to Mar-a-Lago, kissing the ring, doing whatever it is Trump wants them to do, giving them money. The big one that I'm tracking right now is whether the current Trump DOJ will keep pursuing this antitrust action against Meta. Right now they've got one against Google. And if the judges rule against their favor, all of a sudden these companies are going to get broken up. Google Chrome is going to be its own thing. Google Maps might be its own thing.
Gmail.
I think all of these other... Gmail, yeah, Google's screwed, so they have to be nice to the president. Meta has been trying to be nice to the president, but I think Trump just like automatically hates Zuckerberg no matter what. But I would not say that the MAGA movement actually likes big tech now. It's not like, oh my God, yeah, everything's cool. We're buddies forever. I was talking to someone in like the Matt Gaetz world who is now like a podcast producer, and he put it this way, which was these guys used to hate us and then they flipped very quickly to to support us. That means that if anyone else gets power, they could flip easily the other way again. So we don't trust them. We're going to make it hurt for them. This is me speaking at this point. Like they are going to make it hurt so much for the tech companies unless the tech companies like capitulate as much as humanly possible.
Right.
You saw this like literally last week with the microchip announcement in the Trump White House. Do you need microchips? You need microchips in literally anything that is an electronic.
Right.
Anything. And Trump goes, I'm going to put a 100% tariff on any microchip that enters the country, unless you commit to building factories in the U.S. that fabricate these microchips. Tim Cook is standing behind him with a big gold statue that's for Trump, and he goes, Tim Cook and Apple, they're going to be fine. They've already committed to building this $100 billion factory in America. It's going to be great. Then literally the next week, NVIDIA, which makes some of the most powerful microchips in the world, strikes this deal with the Trump administration where they're allowed to keep selling chips to China. However, the U.S. government gets a 15% cut of the revenue.
Yeah, and let me just say, because I was talking to somebody who works, a pretty senior person in finance. I was talking to them this morning, and we were talking about the NVIDIA deal and the 15% cut of the I don't know if it's the revenue or the profit, Tina.
It's the revenue.
Okay, it's the revenue. So it's so, but you could like that's in its own way, right? So I mean, I said this, and you see a lot of my friends on Substack and everything else saying, socialism for thee, for me, but not for thee, and all this other stuff, right? Like very ideological. But if you're the average Joe or Jane, you're like, yeah, it's a big company. We should get our cut if they want to send it, if they want to sell to China. Like why wouldn't we? Right. And so like it has the benefit, and I say that almost in air quotes, of seeming reasonable enough. Right, that the average American would be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, if they want to do this, they're a big company, they can afford it. And if they want to sell to China, who I don't like, then yeah, we should take a little cut off the top.
I mean, isn't that kind of the very definition of what populism is, which is you appease the masses, even if the people at the like elite level are like, please don't do this. This has terrible long-term implications.
Yeah. Right, because you could make an argument, as I would, that the reason why the populism is existing in the first place is because the people at the top have screwed the people at the bottom, and the people at the bottom are like, hey, you know what, I get my pound of flesh. It's, my eggs are more expensive. This is more expensive. My house is more expensive. It's harder to do this. It's harder to do that. Like, I can't really touch those people. But if Donald Trump's going to reach out and touch them, it's fine with me. Right? I mean, that's how it works.
That's how you got a lot of the American public being mildly okay with Doge being like going through the federal government. That's right. Sort of why you see, I think that's sort of why you see them being pretty happy with a lot of the like purges that he's doing at the top of the federal government right now, even within like trying to even touch Congress.
Right.
That's a little insane. But
again, if the status quo, look, I say this like about Joe Biden, right? Like, why was it in 2021 or 2022, whenever it was, when the infrastructure bill passed, right? Just as a for instance, why was it that, like, when I was still at the Lincoln Project, like, why were we the first guys out there saying, thank you, President Biden, for doing this, right? Which is like, if you're going to be government and you're going to extol the virtues of government, then you have to tell the people repeatedly, here's why this is good for you. And we're Americans, so we always, we all have this vestigial sort of libertarianism within us, right? Like, it's how we started. So, like, you're always going to have to over-index on reminding people what is good, what the government is trying to do for them. And if you don't do that, and I could apply this too, Tina, to like what you're seeing with big universities and how, their research budgets are being clawed back or cut by the administration, is if people didn't know that Harvard was getting all this money, right? That's one thing. When they find out, they're like, what? But then there's no connection from what Harvard is doing on research project X to the individual American's life, right? Like, maybe Harvard didn't want to advertise they were getting however many billions of dollars a year, right? Maybe they didn't want to do that. Now it's coming back to bite them, which is, if you're going to do things and you're going to do it in the name of the people who are ultimately paying for this stuff, then you have to make the case to them. And Trump's like, on one side, you're getting screwed. On the other side, I'm holding these people accountable. But by the way, don't look at this because, actually, the tariff is actually a tax increase on you. But you know what? I'm taking that out on the Chinese and the Germans and everybody else. And then, you just throw up enough stuff in the air. And I even had a friend yesterday, another senior Democrat, say, they're really good at doing all this. They're really good at keeping people sort of off kilter, on their back foot, trying to figure out what comes next. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. And going back to the top of our conversation, they had been working on these strategies and tactics and this ecosystem for a very, very long time.
Yeah. One of the things that I always tell people is that one of the first books that you will ever get handed if you are a young baby Republican is Rules for Radicals, which is a Saul Alinsky book about being a radical in the 1960s trying to screw the system. And, initially you'd be like, wow, I can't believe they're teaching you. Oh my God. Oh my God. Wow.
Even highlighted.
Oh my God. When did you first get this book?
You know what? I came to it late, I think. I came to it late.
But who did you get it from? Was this like you?
I bought it. It was, it was me. It was definitely post-Trump. Because I was like, okay, well, like, what has been working for the last 60 years isn't working anymore. So let's figure something else out. But yes, again, the point is well taken.
Yeah. They just like I said earlier, Republicans are really good at figuring out what their opponents did, breaking it down, chopping it up, remaking it in their own image, and then using it to, bulldoze through the Democrats. Why the Democrats can never see this, I couldn't begin to tell you. But the result is that they are bad at it, and the Republicans are good at it, and here we are.
But, I mean, my supposition has been, and let me go back to MAGA for a second, is that the movement needed something or someone like Trump to really, he was sort of the corner piece of the whole puzzle, which is they built all this other stuff, but when he showed up, he was the catalyst to allow all this other stuff to explode. Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that? Do you think somebody else could have done it if it wasn't him?
I think that Trump was the perfect catalyst because he was the first person in that movement who did not care about the sacred cows as much as the rest of the Republican Party did. If Ron DeSantis were president, say, yeah, he's got the exact same agenda as Project 2025. I think if the Democrats were to throw up things like, this is not how things are done, this goes against all the norms that exist, DeSantis and the rest of the GOP were like, oh my God, yes, we have to abide by these rules.
Right.
Trump did not care about these rules. Trump never read the Constitution. He just kind of went there and broke stuff. And in that chaos and in that like absence, the Republicans saw an opportunity to just like flood the zone.
Right.
One of the things that I was clocking between, like, I think 2022, 23 was Project 2025 started making its way into public knowledge. Everyone looks at the book. They go, oh my God, this is their plan. How scary it is. The thing that stands out to me, though, is that part of the plan is that they also put together a giant jobs database for Republicans to enter the federal government, which is insane if you came up through libertarian times, because there is no Republican that wanted to go into the federal bureaucracy. Their entire thing was, we want to take it down. So I reached out to them, I do an interview and asked, that's incredible. Why are you putting together an entire Republican bureaucracy? That's not how it's done. And they say, well, what we learned in the first Trump administration was that the people who were resisting Trump implementing the agenda were bureaucrats.
Right.
It was like a 30-year career, like deputy so-and-so going, no, you can't do this. This is why, but we also have the power to stop you from implementing it. We have that knowledge. The moment that you fired those people and replaced them with Republicans with any sort of knowledge and what is happening, or actually if they don't have knowledge and just say, you know what, screw it, get rid of this, that's much better for the agenda. And once again, Republican 3D chess, long-term thinking.
Well, so I was at the Department of Health and Human Services for 8 inglorious weeks in 2001. And there was an expression there, which is, I think it's a little bit different, but it was the same idea, which was called burrowing in, which was there were a lot of people who had come out of the Clinton-Gore administration who had found their way from a Schedule C appointment, which is sort of the lowest level of political appointment, to a civil service job. Right. And so, so now it was probably, let's say, dozens, maybe hundreds, probably maybe not even that many. But the point is those people are locking in a certain worldview. They're locking in a certain perspective at the place where the rubber meets the road in government, which is like somebody actually has to press send, somebody actually has to send an email, somebody actually has to send a wire transfer or order somebody else to do something else, or work with a state to implement some program. And to your point, if you can make sure that all of that stuff either works to the benefit of your ideology or gets gummed up because you don't want it to happen, then that's very powerful. And I think that's one thing that we've seen is it's really, to your point, an all-encompassing strategy, right? It wasn't just like, we're going to get rid of the parts of government we don't like. It's a total radical transformation of governance. For me, as the listeners have said, Tina, my opinion on Project 2025 is very simple. Get rid of the parts of government that help people and protect people at the expense of parts of government that can help control people. That's my very, obviously I'm very biased about it, but that's always been my sense of it. Okay, let me ask you to put your futuristic 3D glasses on. Donald Trump and MAGA. Donald Trump has 3.5 years left in office, roughly. What is MAGA doing, right? And I'm going to make a big assumption, and I might be wrong, I'll probably be wrong, that he'll actually leave office. What does MAGA look like in a post-Trump world? Are they already working on that? That's question one. And then two, a very smart friend of mine, I wrote this, said that they believe, and I think he might be right, that the 2028 Republican primary, such as it is, could actually be a proxy war between Peter Thiel and Elon Musk. So question one, what comes post-Trump? Question two, is the Republican Party now just a proxy war amongst very, very wealthy tech guys?
Weirdly enough, other than Trump saying, like, maybe I could have a third term, and a couple other somewhat fringe people right now saying he should go to third term, the actual constitutional mechanisms that would require Trump to get a third term, I am currently not seeing any action on their side, but maybe I also haven't looked hard enough. I wouldn't speak it out loud. It's in my book. People can read it. But what I do see more of is a sense that other Republicans right now are trying to position themselves as Trump's heir. J.D. Vance might be the closest thing that Trump does have to an heir, but it's the Trump administration. Everyone's trying to knife each other. And Elon is on this massive revenge campaign against Trump and the Republican Party. The question, though, is, one, is he actually able to pay enough attention and not be on ketamine to be focused enough to make this happen? And two, whoever he picks up to actually run on his platform, would they want to risk their career in the Republican Party for this? It's a little hard to say right now what Elon's ideal candidate looks like. He's definitely made a lot of inquiries to a huge, like, vast array of people. I think there are enough billionaires and high-profile blah-de-das who kind of would say, yeah, it would be cool to have a third party, but we've been trying for ages. You've said that to me as much.
Right.
So either Elon would have to do a very absolutely harebrained 5D chess thing in order to first screw with the House enough to stop MAGA from doing MAGA stuff, and then two, have enough of a ground game to run a candidate against whoever the Donald Trump heir is.
Right.
That is the really, really difficult part. And I don't know. We'll see what Elon decides to do.
But the thing about these movements, and in particular leaders like Trump, is that the handoff, the succession plan, is typically non-existent because they can't imagine anybody coming after them, right? Nobody, they all think they're going to live forever. They all think they're going to rule forever. And Donald Trump is preternaturally incapable of thinking that anybody could be better than him. So, yes, having his imprimatur in a Republican primary in 2027, 28 would probably be a lot of a springboard to a nomination, but it's hard to see that he won't make people make promises to him to get it, right? Because he's all transactional anyway. And I don't, does he like Vance? I don't know, but he doesn't like anybody. So it's not like he has any loyalty to JD Vance, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, as we've seen for over the past 10 years, it's very, God, what's the best word? It's transactional, it's very temporary, and it's sort of capricious. That's the best word. I remember covering in the midterms in 2022, and that was the first test of, does Trump's endorsement mean anything? And in a lot of cases, it did not. To an embarrassing number of cases, it did not, to the point that the House was pretty much screwed for a while, at least for the Republicans. There's also a case where he just kind of checks out completely and lets everyone else fight amongst themselves in order to, succeed him, like The Apprentice, that show that he did for a very long time.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he could theoretically, even out of office, still wield a great deal of political authority via Truth Social or Twitter or whatever, basically by saying, that guy's, he might be president, but he's an idiot. He's not nearly as good a president as I ever was. And now you've got somebody, trying to could you, what do you want? Leave me alone. But of course he can't do that. Okay. Tell me now, you have just launched a new newsletter called Regulator over at The Verge. I like the fact that you used Warren G to introduce the newsletter. So tell us about the Regulator.
Okay, yeah, Warren G. Regulate is actually kind of a good metaphor for the premise of the newsletter, which is Regulate's a song about a bunch of rich guys with Rolexes and rings walking down the street, and then a gang of dudes jump out of nowhere with guns and say, give us all your money or else we'll shoot you. Which is exactly what's happening in the federal government right now, right? Big tech has a lot of money. The federal government has a lot of guns and, the federal apparatus. And Trump is using it to threaten big tech. And big tech gives him a big cut of money, grovels in front of him, says, yes, Mr. President. And they kind of get to do their business from then on. So the way I describe it is that it's the clash between big tech and big government. Because this is the first time, I think, that both of these entities realize that they have to deal with each other. Silicon Valley never had to worry about government getting in their way. Now, not only is the government actively getting in their way, they're doing it with a bit of resentment and a grudge being held against them. Silicon Valley literally, in the meantime, doesn't know how to talk to senators and thinks, oh, only 30 million is fine. No, you need to give them 300 million, sir. Yeah. But on the other hand, government literally knows nothing about how this new technology is working. AI is developing much faster than they can understand it. Crypto is making more money than they can put brakes on it. Trump is 80 and doesn't know exactly how any of this stuff works. So as long as there's the right billionaire telling Trump what to do, or the right tech influencer saying, Trump, you should do this, the Silicon Valley still has a means of power, and a very, very important one. So that's turned into a real hot mess that I love covering.
Yeah, I mean, let me just say this. So everybody, before I ask you this question, where can folks find Regulator to sign up for it, to subscribe?
Verge.com, go to theverge.com, open newsletters. It's about $50 a year, but it's not just for my newsletter. It's for access to the entire Verge. And
Okay.
they are some of the best tech coverage in the business,
Okay.
not just technology in terms of consumer tech, reporting on the major tech corporations, exploring what happens when technology enters our lives too much. So I think it's an incredible value for what you get.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, less than a price of a latte. Okay, Tina, so we've got The Verge, we've got Regulator. Where else can we find you and your work?
When is this episode going up?
Probably Friday.
Okay. I will actually be speaking at this conference in DC called the Liberalism Conference. It's held by the Institutes for the Study of Modern Authoritarianism. I'm about to do a panel there with Will Sommer, Oswin Subsang, and Talia Levin, who are three of the best reporters on far-right culture. We're basically going to be doing group therapy, and it's going to be a blast. So if you're able to come see it, come see it. Otherwise, the MAGA Diaries is out in paperback now. You can get it wherever books are sold. It's fun. I also do an audiobook on it, and I am most active on Instagram, weirdly enough. So...
All right. Well, we'll find you on Instagram. As always, gang, you can find me on Twitter, TikTok, Says Us, you name it, at Reed Galen, on Threads and Instagram at Reed_Galen USA. Of course, over on Substack, also the Homefront. And guys, please do sign up for the union. Join the union.us. Get involved in your communities. We've got campaigns going on right now. We've got races in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Virginia that are very important. Tina Nguyen, thanks for joining me.
It's been great, Beck. Thanks, Reed.
Everybody else, we'll see you next time. All right.